It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, Mzansi, welcome back. Your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and we're continuing with the Feel Good, and we're continuing with all the health advice right now with something very, very special. Now, we're talking about people with bipolar disorder experiencing extreme fluctuations in mood, and it can also make for a challenging living environment. But Dr. Samke Ngobo is an accomplished doctor living with bipolar disorder, as well as an author and advocate for mental health issues. Now, she's joining us this morning as we break down a little bit more about bipolar disorder, as well as the incredible work that she's been doing to support those suffering with mental illness. Doc, are you here? Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to all the viewers.
Oh, good morning. We always love connecting with you because we know that you're quite outspoken about advocating for mental health. In your opinion, why do you think it is so important to raise awareness and support around this very important topic?
One of the most critical things that I think we need to face is the issue related to stigma, because worldwide and countrywide, we're still having a great challenge of people living with mental illness who are still being ostracized and isolated because of this. And with this high rate of suicide and people not understanding and lack of insight, I find it very important that this conversation is more robust and more continuous and not restricted to certain times of the year, but is a continuous conversation throughout.
I absolutely agree with that. Now, for you especially, you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder when you were only 14 years old. Now, a mental health issue can often provide many obstacles. You still somehow managed to make an incredible success out of your life. What are some of those tools that you used for your mental health, and how did it not negatively impact your health? How did you rise up above it?
I love the term you're saying about rising up, because it has not been as beautiful and thriving as it is. I take ownership of my entire journey because it has not been a simple one. But what has been most important for me is that I learned to accept my illness. I learned to make peace with it. And once I developed insight, which was through the help of my psychiatrist and my psychologist, it was a multidisciplinary team intervention that assisted me in supporting me and the love and support of my family. When I got to a point where I befriended my illness, and then I'm thriving because of the interventions and taking treatment for my illness, because it is a lifelong illness.
I love that you said that it is a lifelong thing, but a lot of people don't know that they have bipolar disorder. They don't know that they're suffering from depression and anxiety. Maybe you can tell us a few signs or maybe symptoms that parents or people may notice if they suspect that they have bipolar disorder.
So bipolar disorder is a mental illness, which is a type of a mood disorder. What separates it from depression is the fact that bipolar disorder has manic symptoms. So there's bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. But what makes it different is the fact that there's mania. There's increased goal-directed activity, increased more pacing around, increased energy, a decreased need for sleep, and at times they'll be engaged in high-risk behavior that's not in the usual. So it's very important to note behavior changes and a change in thought processes as well, whereas there can be increased thought speed as well as a result of the symptoms of mania.
Jesus, quite a dramatic effect on you if you didn't actually realize what you had. But listen, earlier we were speaking about some of the tools you had, and you mentioned the support system and the family. But when it comes to the treatment methods and skills people can adopt, what are those when it comes to bipolar?
When it comes to bipolar disorder and every other mental illness, it's critical to realize that you cannot just simply treat it at home. It's a multidisciplinary team approach, and it's important for me to highlight that and for people to realize that as much as I can exercise, as much as I can take a walk in the park and do other things, I still need the intervention of professionals, namely a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and when I needed it, I needed an occupational therapist. I take medication, and that's through the specialty of my psychiatrist, because they're the ones that help balance the chemicals in my body, and it's been sort of working out what is best for me. And also the intervention of a psychologist as well, where I get psychotherapy in order to speak about my journey related to my mental illness. And most importantly as well, the support of my loved ones has been critical in my journey.
Dr. Samke, we love having this conversation with you. We're going to continue this because you also wrote a book, like we spoke about the many successes that you have. You wrote a book, and we're going to speak about that, so don't go anywhere. For you at home, all you need to know is that you are not alone. There is help out there. You can visit sadac.org if you want to, or you can alternatively call the number on screen right now, which is 0800-567-567. There's help out there for every single one of you.
Yeah, Doc, are you still on the line though? Just before you go, I really wanted to just dive into the book a bit more in terms of the inspiration behind you actually getting to put these incredible thoughts, put your experiences down on paper. What was the final sort of reasoning and justification behind something to you saying, I've got to put this out there, I've got to provide this help for the rest of the people that are maybe suffering with an illness on their own?
One of the things that inspired me, after I experienced a public bipolar episode, and that was crippling, and it brought me to my knees. And with the feelings I had, I felt that it's so important for people who live with mental illness to realize that we are together in this journey. I felt that there's such a need for connection and community, and I wanted to put my pain on paper and to process. It was cathartic for me to write this, and I wanted to validate my own journey. There's nothing more powerful than self-advocacy, and there's nothing more powerful than self-activism, because if we speak from our own perspective as people living with mental illness, I feel that the narrative related to mental illness will move forward at a faster rate.
Oh, and just the fact that you are speaking so positively, you literally are inspiring, and that adds to that power. I mean, you're an advocate for all those that are going through these challenges right now, and it's just incredible to see you. Your energy is so rife, it's so powerful, and I can feel it from across the screen here. It's almost like you're with us in real life. So thank you once again from Jamie and I and the rest, I think, of Mzansi, just for allowing a lot of us to relate. And we're going to be carrying on with relating. We're going to carry on with this conversation and dive more into that book in just a bit, Mzansi, so don't go anywhere.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are just in time because we are still discussing mental health and also the importance of really just finding the right support network if you do suffer from mental illness. And this morning we have had the pleasure of chatting with Dr. Samke Nkobo, an accomplished doctor living with bipolar disorder, as well as an author, as well as an advocate for mental health issues. The CV goes on and on. We're so glad that you're still with us this morning, Doctor.
Right, it's a pleasure.
Doc, you're still there now. Doc, I think Jamie and I are still bubbling and beaming from your inspiration of our talk earlier, and we were definitely getting into touch with the book that you just released, and we're speaking about the inspiration behind it. But when it comes to the book, and for anyone that doesn't know the name, Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, A Journey with My Mental Illness. Now, we spoke about that inspiration, but can you tell us about the purpose of this book? What was it the purposely meant for, and especially your reasoning behind, obviously, why this has come into materialization?
The primary purpose was to humanize the journey of somebody living with a mental illness. I feel that, on Google you can find out what is mental illness and read about it, but what is it like as somebody living with a mental illness? What is the internal world of somebody living with a mental illness? So I wanted to hold hands with people who share in my journey, to say to them, I'm living with an illness. This is how it feels. This is what it looks like for people who wish to understand. So the primary reason was to just make people understand the journey of somebody living with a mental illness, and to connect with people who are struggling with mental health issues as well, to know that they are not alone. And that's one of the primary reasons why I decided to just put pen to paper. And it was my first offering my vulnerability of discussing my illness in public, because before I went on these platforms, the book was that primary space that I had made myself vulnerable to sharing that journey.
You just keep on inspiring all of us. We are smiling just hearing your story. But as a busy doctor and an author, you've also managed to launch Sisters for Mental Health. Please tell us a bit more about this initiative.
This is for mental health. It's still very infantile, but the reason behind it is related to connection. The purpose of it is to bring people together, because one of the biggest challenges we're living, especially with COVID-19 and what we experienced, the isolation that we had, is we need to connect, we need to band together. So right now I'm still active on social media, on our Instagram page, but also we're meeting, especially next week, for example, we're meeting with the other ladies, where we're going to be talking, having speakers who have lived with mental illness, some specialists who discuss and educate us. So it's a platform to psycho-educate and to connect with other people who want to learn more about mental health issues.
Oh, Doc, absolutely love it. And I think everybody out there is definitely wanting to learn more, and should, with that being said. Now, look, you have an incredible aura and energy about you. I mean, you're just speaking about the fact that you are not alone, and your book adds to that sentiment, and you allow people to resonate with you. But what other message would you maybe like to leave with any viewer out there that might be dealing with a mental health diagnosis?
I would like to encourage people to no longer feel ashamed about their struggles. It's said so many times that it's okay to not be okay. And with the rates of suicide and people really struggling to cope while we try and be brave and resilient and try and compare who can carry challenges, just reach out for help, reach out for support. There are support structures out there through friends, through family, through non-profit organizations such as SADC. There is help out there, and don't be ashamed to reach out because there are resources available. So don't feel that you're at the end of your own rope. Just reach out. It is the bravest thing you can ever do, to just admit that you might be struggling with your mental health and to just accept the support that is offered.
Oh,
Dr.
absolutely love it.
Thank you so much for not only sharing your story and your successes, but also now inspiring everyone out there that says, you know what, I have a disorder, I have a mental health issue, but here I am, you know, fighting beyond that and sharing my story with the rest of them. Thank you for your time this morning as well. As always, it's a pleasure connecting with you. You are an inspiring human being, and we always feel so fulfilled when we speak to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You're most welcome.
All right, and for you, Mzansi, don't forget you can find that helpline right now on your screens, as well as the website if you are dealing or suffering with anything and do need help. And finding the right support network plays a vital role in living a full life while managing your mental health. And it's important to know you are not alone. If you need help, then you can reach out to the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. That is SADC.org, or you can call 0800 567 567.